Modern Day Odyssey podcast.
In 1993, Alf and Eileen Roberts were on holiday in Dunster in the English county of Somerset. After a day out, they got into their car and headed back to their hotel. It was 7:30 when they found themselves lost in a village called Bampton. The picturesque village was pleasing to the eye with a display of flowers on the village green, accompanied by a wooden plaque which read, "Best Kept Village of 1976. Although impressed by the village's floral display, they thought no more of it, continuing their journey and eventually finding their hotel in nearby Dunster. The next day, Alf and Eileen returned to Bampton to take photos of the flower display they had seen the day before. But they were shocked to find a bare village green in place of the flowers, with no sign of the plaque boasting Best Kept Village. In fact, on further inspection, the Roberts noticed that the entire village's appearance had changed considerably. During the filming of a 1995 episode of the television series,
Okay, so I'm trying to have
they stated that when they had left Bampton,
the audio
time had not changed on their watches. It remained 7:30, even though they
without
had been in the
fucking
village for some time.
killing my
It
ears.
was as if time had stood still. Eileen Roberts said it seemed as though it was the same village, but in a different time. On further investigation, when they arrived home after their trip, they discovered that the village of Bampton had in fact been awarded the title of Best Kept Village in 1976. Two English couples, Cynthia and Len Gisby, and Pauline and Jeff Simpson, embarked on a holiday in Spain in the summer of 1979, a holiday which would include a road trip through France. After travelling for almost 10 hours, they decided to call it a night and search for a hotel in rural France to rest so that they could continue their journey the following day. They found a bed and breakfast set deep in the French countryside, an old building surrounded by trees and rich green foliage. They were met by a friendly landlord who welcomed them in and showed them to their rooms. The rooms were adorned with old wooden beams and arcane furniture, along with glassless windows. They ate supper and retired to their rooms for the night. The next morning, the couples took a few photos to remember their stay, before sitting down to breakfast. Shortly after entering the dining room, two French police officers entered the room, soon to be accompanied by a young woman said to be wearing an old-fashioned dress. The couples recalled the uniforms that the police officers wore were also very old-fashioned, and like nothing they had seen before. Assuming they were regular customers, the couples thought no more of it. They soon left after paying the landlord.
You know what?
With the entire
Let's
cost
switch
of their stay
and
coming
find
to a total of
something
19
else.
francs, which would have been the equivalent of just under £2 British at the time. A small amount which surprised the holidaymakers. When they returned home to England, they found that the photographs they had taken were non-existent, as if they were never taken. The couples, in an attempt to make sense of their strange experience, investigated the case further and found that the police uniform.
Let's see.
Are
Let's
you
check this
ready
one.
to see your brand on TV? Your competitors will wish they had known about Vibe. With Vibe, you can
Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with as they approach the village of Kersing in Suffolk, UK. Paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us. Send us an email
this
with
is
your
going to be one of
story
these.
for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. Medieval village. In the autumn of 1957, three young
This is
cadets
loud in
found
my
themselves
headphones.
unexpectedly transported to a different era as they approached the village of Kersing in Suffolk, UK. Subtle hints of their impending ordeal would emerge when
I don't know
William
how my
Lane,
audio just
a
got
keen
fucked.
observer of his surroundings, noticed that the trees and grass had transformed into vibrant colours of spring. As the tree drew closer to the village, the imposing church tower atop the hill came into view, its bells ringing out across the countryside. However, about 100 yards from the church, an eerie silence descended upon them. The bells abruptly ceased, and not a single bird call or gust of wind could be felt or heard. The houses before them appeared ancient, with no signs of modern life, no television aerials, telegraph wires, or street lamps in sight. Upon reaching the stream, the cadets encountered white ducks, but these creatures seemed unnaturally still and lifeless, almost like decoys.
It's kind of hard to.
Driven through the tiny windows of the cottages, they saw no evidence of human presence, except for what appeared to be a butcher's shop. Inside, 3 ox carcasses hung, green with age and shrouded in cobwebs. As the young men sat by the bridge over the stream, their initial sense of an eerie sadness began to shift into something more sinister, a feeling of being surrounded by hostile, unseen watchers. After enduring this unnerving sensation for around 25 minutes, the cadets decided to flee the ghostly village. As they ran, the sound of church bells suddenly returned, and smoke could be seen rising from chimneys that had previously been dormant. This sudden change suggested that the cadets had indeed slipped back in time, possibly even further than the 12th century, when the church was first constructed, as modern images of the church indicate that it could not have simply vanished from sight. Lane's companions on that fateful day were James McLeod and Robert Ferguson. The 3 young men had met during their military training and had quickly formed a close bond, often exploring the countryside together during their free time. The village of Kersey, located in the heart of Suffolk, has a rich history dating back to the Anglo-Saxon period, and picturesque cottages and winding streets have remained largely unchanged for centuries. As the cadets made their way back to their barracks, they struggled to come to terms with what they had just experienced. Had they really been transported back in time, or was it merely a shared hallucination? The vivid details of their experience, including the changes in the colours of the trees and grass, the eerie silence, the disappearance of the church, and the ancient appearance of the village, seemed far too real to be dismissed as a mere trick of the mind.
All right.
Wuthering Heights.
Switch up. See, this is pretty unorganized because I wasn't supposed to go down like this. It took me a while to figure this out. So now we're just kind of cruising it and just going with it.
Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us?
We'll see what's
Send
up.
us an email. Victorian couples in a historic hotel. The following are 3 more authentic
See, this is a little bit better at
intriguing
add some
accounts
actual
that
visuals to it.
demonstrate the captivating and perplexing nature of time slips. Time slip into the future. In the heart of Brighton, on a quiet September evening in 1999, a group of friends gathered at a quaint pub just off the Old Stein. As they enjoyed each other's company, their attention was suddenly drawn to a peculiar couple who entered the establishment at around 9 p.m. The man and woman, who appeared to be in their late 20s, made their way to the bar, their demeanour somewhat awkward and out of place. What struck the group of friends as particularly odd was the couple's attire. They were dressed impeccably in the fashion of the late 1940s, with the man wearing a tailored suit and fedora, and the woman adorned in an elegant dress and hat. Their identities remain a mystery to this day. As the couple took their seats at a nearby table, they seemed utterly captivated by their surroundings. Their eyes widened in astonishment as they observed a television displaying music videos, a sight that seemed to perplex them. Throughout the evening, the couple diligently dotted down notes in small notebooks they carried with them, seeming to pay particular attention to the patrons' mobile phones and modern fashion choices. The group of friends, which included Owen Hensley, a 22-year-old university student, couldn't help but notice the couple's unusual behaviour. As the friends prepared to leave the pub, the woman suddenly leaned forward and caught Owen's attention.
There's one single video that's
God
responsible
damn.
for leading over
That's-
2,000 Christian men to permanently quitting.
Speaking in perfect English, but with a distinct German accent, she asked, "Excuse me for asking you what may sound like a strange question, but what year is it?" Taken aback by the unexpected query, Owen replied, "It's 1999. The shock that registered on both the woman and her companion's faces was considerable. "Are you sure?" she pressed, her voice trembling slightly. 1999 and not 1969? Owen smiled reassuringly and confirmed that it was indeed 1999. As he and his friends stepped out into the rainy darkness, Owen curiously glanced back at the pub, catching a glimpse of the puzzled couple deep in conversation, their expressions still marked by apparent disbelief at the revelation of the date. The encounter left Owen and his friends questioning the true nature of the mysterious couple. Were they simply actors who had remained in character after a performance? Or could they have been genuine time travellers from the late 1940s, somehow transported
they said
to the present
1969,
day?
not 1949.
It wasn't until many years later, after Owen discovered the phenomenon of time slips, that this possibility also crossed his mind. As the years passed,
I think
the story of the peculiar
messed up right
couple
there.
at the Brighton pub became a favourite topic of conversation among Owen and his friends. They would often reminisce about that surreal September evening.
So this one's pretty trippy. This one was an incident where someone and his homies are just chilling at the pub in modern time, hanging out, when a couple comes in dressed in 1940s attire, female and male. They both sit down and they look bewildered because it doesn't look to them what it should look like. And the people that are in there don't look like the people from their time that they normally see. To go ahead and ask them, like, what year is this? And to find out that they're the ones that time slipped into the future for a split second or a few minutes or whatever. They walked out the door and then that was it. What happened? Who knows? But quick time slips happen, like portals, entryways, regular doors can just have the right, vibration and energy or whatever to send you through that portal, through this time slip, because it can be anywhere, at any place, at any time when these things happen. And like I said, there's so many stories all over the place of these time slips. I got like a fucking lips. Sound like a Slytherin talking parcel tongue.
Wondering if they had brushed shoulders with individuals from another era, or if the entire incident was simply a bizarre misunderstanding. To this day, the true identity of the mysterious couple and the circumstances surrounding their appearance at the pub remain a mystery. The possibility of time travel or a time slip continues to captivate Owen. Whether a remarkable coincidence or evidence of something more extraordinary, his memory of that evening in Brighton lives on, continuing to inspire a deep fascination in him with the unexplained. Overlapping eras. In February 2007, Alana Parrish found herself in a highly...
So that first story is pretty trippy. Like I said, it was just you and your homies happen to be in a regular spot where someone else time slips into your time reality. And the thing is that sometimes with these time slips, either there is no communication at all because there's no one around you, or communication is very little, very short and very brief, and that's it. You don't get a lot of time to speak to the people from that time or the people from another place to come and talk to you.
The anxious state as she embarked on a journey to her childhood hometown with her 10-year-old daughter, Kaylee. Alana's husband, Michael, had been in the hospital for minor surgery, but was being kept as an inpatient for an additional 2 days due to post-operative bleeding. With the promise of his discharge on Monday morning, Alana decided to take Kaylee to visit her mother, hoping to provide Michael with the necessary peace and quiet he would no doubt require upon his return home. The day started with a series of stressful events. First, There was no phone call from Michael confirming his discharge before Alana and Kaylee left home at 9 a.m.
Okay, all
Alana
right.
hoped that he would call her mother instead, who would be able to reassure her when they arrived at her home. Next, the train tickets cost more than Alana had anticipated, as she had forgotten that they were travelling beyond the operating zone, where the £1 flat fare for an accompanying child applied. Furthermore, the journey involved 2 train changes, the arrival and departure time of one, leaving only a 3-minute.
Damn, you're gonna go pick somebody up being discharged from the hospital, and you gotta go ahead and take 2 trains to get there, and possibly a taxi cab after. And then you gotta take taxi cab back to the train station, and catch 2 trains back home with the person that just got discharged. That's some crazy shit.
Margin, also adding to Alana's anxiety. As they approached their final destination, Alana and Kaylee found themselves plunging into the darkness of a long tunnel, which Alana had forgotten existed. The seemingly endless darkness alarmed Kaylee, and Alana found herself struggling to keep her daughter distracted and prevent another meltdown, as Kaylee was on the autism spectrum and prone to sudden outbursts when her routine was disrupted. Upon their arrival at the station, Alana's mother, Margaret, met them to drive them back to her house, what she called the pretty way, despite the mid-February landscape offering little to admire. As they drove through the town, Alana's anxiety continued to grow, as it was now 11 a.m, and Margaret had still not received a phone call from Michael. It was at this point that Alana began to experience a strange dreamlike quality that certain experts in the paranormal research community have referred to as the Oz factor. This phenomenon, named after the surreal world in the classic children's novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, is often associated with time-slip experiences and tends to occur during periods of intense emotion. The Oz factor is characterized by a sense of heightened awareness, altered perception, and a feeling of being in a different reality.
Oh, okay. You
From hard hats
fucking tripping
to
balls,
steel-toed
then
boots,
in other
Bridger's
words,
got your safety needs covered.
some vivid
The
ass
town appeared
tripping
strangely
balls
drab,
event.
devoid of all colour, and the atmosphere seemed oppressive. The streets were almost empty, and most of the landmarks seemed to have remained unchanged since Alana's childhood more than 40 years earlier. Alana's brain and eyes started running a kind of double exposure reel. As they drove down familiar streets, she saw the houses both as they were in the present and as they had appeared 40-odd years before, the 2 images overlaid, one right before her eyes and the other just behind them.
That's
Alana
trippy.
felt as though she was gradually slipping back through the decades to the 1960s, and she had to fight down a growing panic. A tingling sensation spread
This
through
is
her
the
body,
daughter that's having
and she
this
felt
trip,
a sudden chill despite the car's heater
and
running.
she was able to explain
The air seemed to thicken,
what it
and
is
the once
that
familiar streets
she was
began
going
to take
through.
on an eerie alien quality. This peculiar heightened state of awareness lasted all the way back to her childhood home, where she had lived with her parents, Robert and Margaret Fraser, from 1965 to 1980. As they stepped through the front door of the red brick 2-story house, Alana heard Margaret's phone ringing. She ran to grab it, and the caller display showed her home number. Alana knew right away that Michael had to be safely home and checking in with them. The immense sense of relief she felt was like a bubble bursting, and the strange double exposure reel stopped instantly. Alana found herself anchored in 2007 again, with all the 21st century reference points securely back in place. Looking back on this experience, Alana realised that her heightened emotional state, coupled with the familiar surroundings of her childhood hometown, had brought her to the brink of a time slip. Alana's experience serves as a fascinating example of how our emotional states and surroundings can influence our perception of reality. Its representation in time even starting to shift. The overlaying of past and present images was not merely a trick of the mind, but seemingly the beginning of a genuine time-slip experience. As she shared her story with others, Alana discovered that she was not alone in her experience. Many others had reported similar occurrences, often triggered by a combination of heightened emotions and familiar surroundings. Experiences such as this, while rare, offer a glimpse into the complex relationship between our minds, our emotions, and the world around us, suggesting that the boundaries between past, present, and future may be more fluid than we realise. Vanishing Victorian couples. In the summer of 2003, Julia McIntyre, a 27-year-old tourist from New York, and her best friend Vanessa found themselves exploring an old, quaint hotel in a small historic town. The hotel, built in the 1880s, was known for its charming Victorian architecture and rich history. As Julia and Vanessa wandered through the hotel's cosy corridors,
Okay. That's some time slips real quick. Let's go ahead and take a look at this really quick because I want to listen to this really quick. Have you guys listen to this really quick because this shit was crazy.
Full account of my experiences as of recently. Because of the nature of what has happened, I must remain anonymous until I feel it is safe to reveal my real name. But for now, you can refer to me as James Richards. On September 9th, 2009, I experienced something that I still am having trouble believing happened to me. I came into the possession of a cassette tape containing a Beatles album that was never released. In fact, not only was it never released, but it was recorded many years after they broke up. And no, I'm not talking about Klaatu. Now this is where the story becomes slightly more unbelievable, and it is almost embarrassing to attempt to explain the incident to you for fear of viewing me as
So this is one of the
absurd.
stories that really caught my
I must
attention
assure
for
you,
alternate
I am
dimensions.
not insane
There's a
or
lot
on
of them,
drugs,
but this
and
was
hopefully
crazy.
the audio from this tape will be enough proof that there is more than we think out there. I live in Livermore, California, but on September 9th I was driving home from Turlock after visiting a friend for a few days. I had my dog with me and I didn't have any plans for the day, so I decided to take a drive through a place called Del Porta Canyon just west of Turlock. There is a scenic road that is a fun drive and actually goes through to Livermore. I hadn't taken a cruise through it for a while, so I thought I would take this way home. It was about 2 p.m. A ways into the canyon, my dog started acting like she needed to use the restroom. So I pulled over to the first available parking area to the side of the road and let her out while I stretched. At first I didn't notice, but then I heard the barking from 30 yards away. My dog was chasing a rabbit. Now my dog is a pretty good dog, but if she is chasing something, then there is no stopping her, so the only thing I could do was become part of the chase. They already had about a 40-yard head start, so I had to really book it. The uneven ground and soft dirt patches made it difficult to run, and it wasn't very far into the chase I had stepped in a rabbit hole, fell and knocked myself unconscious. When I woke up, I was in a room with some furniture and electronics in it. I was taken care of with a bandage on my head, but I
So this
still
story is
felt
pretty
uneasy
trippy
about the
because
situation
it's even
because where
deeper
I
than you
fell
could
and
think
hit
about
my head was in a
or
very
expect.
rural, unpopulated area with no houses. And outside the window of the room I was in, I could hear traffic. I wasn't near the
I don't
window
think I really
alone.
like that.
It was actually on the other side next to an unusual-looking electronic machine that I didn't recognize from anywhere I've seen before. The only reason this stood out was because it seemed out of place in a person's home, which most of the room resembled. I decided to get up and look out the window, but the door opened and in ran my dog, who was pretty excited to see me. When I looked up, there was a man standing at the door. He was about 6 foot tall, had medium long black hair, and was dressed casually nice but gave me a greasy vibe, if you know what I mean. He introduced himself as Jonas and asked me if I was okay, which I said yes. He said he found me unconscious in a field with my dog barking at me. So I thanked him for helping me and my dog out, and that I was surprised my dog even came back to me. I then asked him the question that would make me start wondering if I in fact had gone crazy. I asked him, "Where am I?" "About 20 feet away from where I found you," he replied. I told him that couldn't be possible because there were no houses within at least 20 miles from where I last remember being.
Dude, where am
He
I?
then told me that what he was going to say next will be very shocking and unbelievable.
Might
and
blow
that
your
if
brains
he
out.
didn't actually experience it himself, then he wouldn't believe it.
Hang on.
He
Hold
took
on
a look
to
at
it.
the machine near the window and looked back at
Mind
me
blown.
and said he transported me into parallel Earth. He said he traveled to our Earth dimension and found me knocked out in the blazing heat with nobody around to help me out. Normally, he said he doesn't take outsiders through a portal, but in my case, he thought I needed urgent help. I immediately started asking questions about traveling to parallel worlds, since all I knew about the topic was YouTube videos of Michio Kaku. He told me to slow down and that he would explain himself. Apparently in his world a
Pay
parallel
attention, you guys,
travel
pay
machine
attention.
can be purchased quite easily. While not cheap, it's pretty popular even though the machine can be dangerous enough to cause death. In the 1950s of his dimension, the government was faced with the decision to continue to fund a space program or a parallel dimension program called ARPD. I can't remember what he said it stood for. I'm pretty sure the PD is Parallel Dimensions, and I remember the acronym because I noticed it on a lot of the electronics in the room I was in. He then
Insane, man.
explained
The
that the real danger
membrane.
of using one of the machines was exploring new dimensions. Since there are an infinite amount of Earths in other dimensions, only a small amount have been
Dude, that's
explored.
so crazy.
The problem with exploring unknown dimensions is the chance you will die somehow once you walk through.
That is trippy, isn't it? This guy driving on a cruise when he had to let his dog out to use the restroom ends up knocking himself out. And when he wakes up, he's in some random ass person's house. When he starts figuring out and getting information on where he's at, the explanation of where he is I'm a time I'm an alternate reality traveler. I showed up where you were knocked out, figured you needed immediate help, and brought you back to my place. This is in an alternate reality of your world where you're at. And my government allowed this alternate reality jumping program to exist, and you're actually able to buy these machines that create portals to other areas. Unfortunately, there are rules to these things and how to use them. Uh, but yeah, that's where you're at, buddy. In alternate reality, in my house, your dog's here, and we're just chilling, waiting for you to wake up. So, yeah, crazy, right?
through the portal doorway. He told me that people die from falling, die from drowning, die from fire, atmospheric issues. He said in order for people to avoid this, they would have to know that there would be similar ground in the dimension they were traveling to.
Yeah. You buy this thing to go through portals, and one of the things on the warning label is you may possibly die when you cross the portal. You will either end up at the bottom of the ocean, end up inside a volcano, end up in the middle of Earth, in the crust of Earth. You can end up in the sky and you fall to your death, or you can end up in other situations where your death is impossible to stop unless you don't cross the portal. That's crazy. Just a warning, you might die when you jump over, but these are the locations that are safe to go. There aren't any place near any humans, so remember when you get there, you gotta be uh have water and some food to make a nice long trek to the nearest town where you must blend in and act like you're from that time. Explore, report, and come back with the data.
So his government began to research worlds that were safe to transport to, even creating public spots where people could choose a menu of worlds to go to that were all safe. Many of these worlds were lush vegetation worlds that were never ruined by man, only to be invaded by the large overcrowded population of the traveler's world. He said something about new industries that opened up because of this, one of them being something like dimensional life brokers. These people offer the
dimensional
chance
life
to live
broker.
as someone new in an already established similar world that doesn't know of dimensional travel, nor that there are people crossing the dimensional border to. Jonas said he was an explorer for one of the dimensional travel agencies and was looking in new uncharted dimensions and came up my Earth. We talked about a lot of things.
Hold on. We need to hear that. We need to go back really quick because what did he just say?
Uncharted dimensions and came up my Earth. Dimensional travel agencies and was looking in new uncharted dimensional border to. Jonas said he was an explorer for one of the dimensional travel agencies and was looking in new uncharted dimensions and came up my Earth. We talked about a lot of things. It was interesting to see what similarities and differences.
This guy works for an agency that travels to different dimensions to make sure that these places are safe for tourists to go and visit and possibly essentially fucking live there. Who knows? Let's see.
We had between worlds. Foods, culture, TV, technology. We covered a lot. We also started talking about music, which was an interesting topic because there were many of the same bands between our worlds that existed, including the Beatles. When their name got brought up, Jonas mentioned that his brother just got back from seeing them perform at a concert recently, which I gave a weird look to and said, "You mean they are still together?" And he said, "Yeah." I then told him about how they broke up in our world and that John and George passed away. Apparently in his world they are all alive, healthy and on tour still. Jonas then had me follow him into another room that had a bookshelf-looking thing with some cassette tapes. Yes, the music ones. Apparently CDs never caught on in his world. And a tape player radio record player. Though it didn't quite look like the type of radios we have. The speakers looked more like crinkled cardboard but sounded pretty good. I didn't get too good of a look at the speakers, but they certainly weren't round. They almost looked like a tall accordion. The only Beatles album he had that was store-bought and had real cover art was SGT Peppers, which the cover looked slightly different than the one we have, but the songs were all the same. The other 6 Beatles tapes he had were all like somebody recorded them onto a blank cassette for him and wrote the song titles on a card slipped in the case. A couple of the album titles written on the tapes I recognized, but there were about 4 that I had never heard of before.
Hold on. How do I do this real quick? I just clipped something and I have no idea how or what. Anyways, I was trying to figure something out to further make shorts or reels or whatever, but anyways.
He played a few songs from one of them, which was totally surreal to hear Beatles music that was never made.
So the Beatles, this is what caught my
We talked about it
attention.
a little bit. He said a girl made the tapes for him while he was in upper school. She was a huge fan of them and wanted him to listen to them. He popped out the first tape and was putting in the second one when I told him he should record me a copy of one so I could take it back with me, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. Well, the look Jonas gave me when I said this is part of the reason I am remaining anonymous. Not only did it sort of scare me, but it had a very serious, almost creepy look to it, followed by the phrase, "No, you are not to take anything with you back to your world. No pictures, no
Damn,
souvenirs,
homie's tripping.
no tapes, nothing." I asked him why, and he wouldn't really say except that for my safety I wasn't to take anything back. Of course, I am not the type of person to go through all of this parallel world stuff and not grab something to prove the outrageous story of my experience. So for the moment I told him
We're
I
gonna
wouldn't
listen
take
to a few
anything and
songs to
change
see
the
if
subject.
it's real or not.
About an hour later, after some more talking, I heard a doorbell ring, and he left the room to check the door. I knew that I may not have another chance to take something, so I grabbed one of the tapes and put it in my pocket, and then shuffled the tapes around to make it look less obvious that something was missing. When he came back inside, I said I was kind of hungry. To just get us out of the room, I mixed the tapes up a little so it was hard to tell one was missing.
So this fool supposedly brought back a cassette tape that is not supposed to exist. Let's see if this is it really quick to listen to some of these songs. Let's see.
Entonces, déjame ver si entiendo. ¿Existen múltiples universos alternos aparte del mío?
Sí, fíjate que sí. Existe uno donde ustedes son 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010 o 2020. Wow.
No, that's not it. All right. So this is one of the songs.
Missing, but I didn't want to
Oh,
be
shit.
there when he found out. So he then took me in.
So this is one of the songs. Where is this fucking thing? Tell me you think this is for reals or what?
Some days I don't believe that you are mine.
That's the homie right there. That's John Lennon. That's his voice.
Some days I look at you with eyes that shine.
This isn't supposed to exist. This thing is insane, is it? Isn't it? Let me see if I can find the other songs. Alright, so that's the one we just heard. Let's see. Dude, the type of beat and stuff that this has to isn't like their normal thing. I mean, it shouldn't be because it comes from an alternate fucking reality. It's a whole different type of beat and style that they would normally have. It's not their no like psychedelic type hit. That has some of the other band members right there singing chorus. This is a cassette that's not even supposed to exist, apparently. This is songs from an alternate reality dimension where the Beatles were still together and John Lennon and the other homie Paul McCartney, I think, weren't KIA. Or they weren't KIA, but they're not dead. It's fucking catchy, dude. Like, damn. Let's see. This is a cassette that has 11 tracks on it. There's 11 songs on this cassette, and essentially, for some reason, they didn't evolve, but they didn't move on in their technology into using CDs. They stuck strictly to cassette tapes. Why? I honestly don't know. Maybe things are just kept longer and better on cassette tape than on CDs. God damn, my neck. Crack lacking. So this song is called Mr. Gatto's Swamp Jamboree. And the cassette album thing that isn't supposed to exist is called Everyday Chemistry. This came out way after the Beatles were, I think, still alive. So I don't know if there's any commentary regarding the Beatles and this. It still has those long intros like they do in their our time style albums. Okay, maybe there are not no fucking lyrics on this one. Let's see. I'm just sitting here. This style of music is just, it's not like that. There's one more song that I'm gonna play. It's their fucking voices. Tell me not. I wasn't no huge fucking fan of the Beatles, but this is them. This, I mean, it sounds like them. This is crazy, folks. I need to show my grandma this and see what my grandma thinks. I don't know. I don't think my grandma's ever heard. I for sure know my grandma's never heard of this before. I should ask her and be like, "Hey, Gramps, listen to this and give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think regarding this." Alright, so this is the last song on this album that isn't supposed to exist, that isn't supposed to be around, and that nobody is supposed to have ever heard, at least not from this dimension that we are in. I wonder what number dimension we are in, you know, like fucking dimension 3469 or for dimension 420. Haha, haha. It's crazy though, dude. Once again, this is a whole other iceberg or rabbit hole to get into, because not only is it talking about, not only do we have a cassette from in our reality that's supposedly from another reality that isn't even supposed to exist here, about a band that is famous, and some of their band members are still alive, and they're still making music, they're still making hits, they're fucking dropping tours still, man. And not only that, but in that reality, in that place, the fucking government has these programs where you can go out and be a tourist and visit these other fucking worlds. Some that are habitable with, or some that are have human life on them, and majority of them, they said, don't. It's just a straight up fucking wilderness the way it is before humans ever touched it. But the fact that they have these jobs for you to go out and explore and report and write down what you find in your explorations, just so that they can take those coordinates of that new dimension you found and be able to send tourists out there into that place and make sure it's safe, make sure there's no dangers, or if there is dangers, write them down, and how to avoid them, because it's money. If you got this technology, this is fucking money. So it's huge. This is legal time travel by the government, and semi-proof if this is real by having this cassette tape of an album that should not exist of the Beatles. Fucking hell, man! All right, let's listen to the last song that's on here. There's 11 songs too, so it's a good it's a good album. It's a good long album. It's a whole different type of style, dude. Like, it's crazy. Y'all know? This is a fucking banger, dude. Ooh. Straight banger. Straight banger. Dude, that song. Look at. Oh, wow. Dude, that drop hit. Damn. Okay. It's called Days Like These. Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Oh, damn. That was hard right there. Anyways, that's that right there, dude. But I got a few questions regarding all this. Like, okay, you stole something from someone that has portals to make it back into your world. That eventually, if he does make it back to come back to your world and finds out later on, well, I guess you did. He said he did wait some time before he even released it because uh, the controversy he was gonna get from having it. I think he said it took him maybe a few 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years when he decided to come out with this and make it public. But yeah, my concern was like, wouldn't the guy come back through Portal or someone else on a tour of that reality, that dimension, and then find out that this is fucking out here? And what are they supposed to do now that they know that we know that the Beatles and this cassette exists somewhere else that is not supposed to exist here? Um, Portals take you to random locations. They're not time machines where you can go ahead and decide where to go or when to go. These portals just take you to a random location at a random time that are opened. They're just opening these random ass fucking portals that take you to anywhere, essentially anywhere in time, anywhere. You have no control of where you want to go. It's just a hit or miss that you're gonna end up somewhere fucking chill. Um, they say that's all kinds of people fucking died just trying to explore because once again, warning label, you might end up at the bottom of the ocean, might end up in the volcano, might end up inside the earth's crust, might end up in some prehistoric era and get eaten by a dinosaur or something like that. That's the risk of the job. I wonder how much it paid. I wonder if it would paid real big money for people to go out and explore and do all that data so that they can have the opportunity to make business and profit sending tourists into these safe zone realities. Like, there's still a few loose ends. There's a lot of what ifs with this story because, like I said, this guy can come back, or if this guy didn't ever come back and find out about this, but he put this reality as a safe zone, and I'm pretty sure that anybody in his time reality that wanted to do tours around realities can come back here and essentially find out about this. And I think further on, it talked about how uh, they turned it into a business where they would falsely create these identities for these people to go to these other realities that were populated and live among that new reality's people to try and fit in and just see how their fucking world is. Dude, can you imagine like being so rich and bored with your life and your other reality that you decide to pay to have this other fake alternate life for a period of time, and you just want to go ahead and experience what it is to either fucking be poor or be in the wealthiest place in the world, and uh like, that's just insane to think about, though, that they'd be paying to go in and live as an alternate person in an alternate reality. uh that's why it was interesting to me. I was gonna go ahead and skip it because I've already done this once before, but there was no audio, and I almost had a crash out again. Well, not again, but I was gonna crash out because I wasn't gonna want to have to stream again the whole thing with no audio. And even the music that I was able to play through Twitch, um, free music or whatever, I couldn't even hear that music playing. So I need to also test it later and see if it's playing and working. But I'm glad that I was able to get it work because I was able to run the videos again, and not just again, but this time I incorporated a new video into it that we were seeing. Fortunately, I didn't really like that type of video. I like the videos where they kind of have a visuals of the story that they're telling, and it's not only still frames and um, voice telling the story. That doesn't make it too interesting, and I lose focus on what's being told. So I need my short attention span to be kept attentive while that's all going down. Um, I kind of want to keep stream going, but at the same time, I'm kind of hungry. I want to go find something to eat, and I am indecisive about either ordering something or just going out and taking a short drive to get something for food, man. Uh, but this was cool. I fixed this. I'm actually gonna start doing segments like this. Uh, Maybe once a week. I'm gonna go ahead and do a segment like this, and then a game night, and go back and forth because my whole thing with this channel is essentially it's a fucking podcast, and I want to talk about things strange and unfamiliar and stuff like that with people. Um, Hopefully this stream was pretty dope. I had two people, maybe one person two times come in and go. I don't know with that, but I'll find out. Um, but yeah, this is supposed to be my podcast, talking about all the weird shit that happens in life, all the weird stuff that doesn't get spoken about in life, and I want to do segments like this. Um, so this is segment one, redone, remixed because we did something a little bit different that we didn't do before. Uh, I already worked and I have my second segment written down. So that'll be coming soon. Maybe the next, possibly tomorrow. I want to say there's a 50-50 chance that I will stream once again tomorrow and I'll do segment two only because I kind of fell behind because I got dismotivated when the first time I recorded this didn't work and I had to redo it. I wasn't going to redo it because I didn't want to really feel like doing the same thing twice. But I said, fuck it. That's all right. I already got this structured. At least I can make a video from it and make it work. So that's where I'm at. All right. Anyways, there's going to be more of these. Like I said, I'm going to mix them in with the game nights and these segments. Essentially, I want to be able to have enough viewers and chatters to talk about stuff like this online over stream. Maybe even do anonymous calls to um, viewers and have them tell us stories about paranormal activities, UFO experiences, anything crazy, anything that essentially we'll be talking about on this channel. That is my goal. That's what I want to.
Odyssey podcast.